Good morning, church family. It is good to be back with you this morning. And Rusty, I appreciate you filling in last week. If you, as always, anytime that Rusty speaks, he does a fantastic job. And so if you missed that, I encourage you to do like I did and go watch it online. So many things there. Great job of closing out that series. We'll be starting a new series this week that will lead us into Christmas. And so I want to start with a story from a book that sits on my shelf. I don't pull it out as often as I would like to, but it's a book that's called Then Sings My Soul. It is stories of the world's greatest hymns. Here's one you may know. When the Great Chicago Fire consumed the windy city of Chicago in 1871, Horatio G. Spafford, an attorney heavily invested in real estate, lost a fortune. About that time, his only son, age 4, succumbed to scarlet fever. Horatio drowned his grief in work, pouring himself into rebuilding the city and assisting the 100,000 who had been left homeless. In November of 1873, he decided to take his wife and daughters to Europe. Horatio was close to D.L. Moody and Ira Sankey, and he wanted to visit their evangelistic meetings in England and then enjoy a vacation. When an urgent matter detained Horatio in New York, he decided to send his wife Anna and their 4 daughters, Maggie, Tanita, Annie, and Bessie, on ahead. As he saw them settled into their cabin aboard the luxurious French liner by some French name that I can't pronounce, an unease filled his mind, and he moved them to a room closer to the bow of the ship. He said goodbye, promising to join them soon. During the small hours of November 22nd, 1873, the ship glided over the smooth seas. The passengers were all of a sudden jolted from their bunks. The ship has collided with an iron sailing vessel. Water poured in like Niagara. The ship tilted dangerously. Screams, prayers, and oaths merged into a nightmare of unmeasured terror. Passengers clung to posts, tumbling through darkness, and were swept away by powerful currents of icy ocean. Loved ones fell from each other's grasp and disappeared into the foaming blackness. Within 2 hours, this mighty ship had vanished beneath the waters. The 226 fatalities included Maggie, Tanita, Annie, and Bessie. Ms. Spafford was found nearly unconscious, clinging to a piece of wreckage. When the 47 survivors landed in Cardiff, Wales, she cabled her husband, saved, alone. Horatio immediately booked passage to join his wife en route on the cold December night. The captain called him aside and said, "I believe we are now passing over the place where the ship went down." Spafford went to his cabin, but he found it hard to sleep. He said to himself, "It is well. The will of God be done." Later, he would write the famous hymn based upon those words, "It is well with my soul." It is well, the will of God be done. There's a lot of things in life that are thrown at us. A lot of things that we try to blame on God, a lot of things that are just our own, what we have done, our own issues and our own problems, and we still try to blame God, and we try to put it in His court in so many things. But in this scenario, he loses a son, and then he loses all of his daughters within a relatively short amount of time. And then while passing the place where that happened, it is well. The will of God be done. Horatio isn't blaming God for the death of his family. What he is doing is finding solace in a God that can take him through the grief, that can take him through this season of his life. Some of you I know are there. Some of you need God to take you through this season of your life. This morning we are starting this series, checking in on our souls. A series called Is It Well With Your Soul? This series will lead us into Christmas. And the season of Christmas, it's a wonderful dichotomy. Maybe wonderful is not the right word. It's a strong dichotomy. For some of us, you are able to drive down the roads and you're seeing the Christmas lights come up. We just did a lot of our interior Christmas decorations at the house, and it's just a joy and delight to wake up with the lights twinkling and the Christmas decorations. And there's just this delight in the air with the music and the people, all the things going on. Yet at the same time, in the midst of all of this, there's grief. There is so much peace going on in the season and a whole bunch of depression at the same time. This season is a season of a dichotomy. And what we need to do sometimes is to check in. We need to ask ourselves, is it really well with our souls? 2 Corinthians 4:16 says this, "So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day." Is that really true for you? I know the first part is true for you. I can look around and know that the outer self is wasting away. I'm not bringing any news that you are not aware of, right? Every one of us looks in the mirror and we look at it wishing that the first part of this statement was not true. We're not as young as we used to be. There are things that are hurting that didn't hurt before. We are wasting away. But is the second part of this statement true for you? Although the outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. Is that really true for you? Is your soul being renewed day by day? You see, many Christians aren't doing well with renewing. We're not good at renewing. It seems that for the past several years, our souls have just been struggling. So much so that there's a prayer in Scripture. It's a beautiful prayer, but our souls aren't doing well enough for us to pray this prayer. Now you may be thinking, what? You would not want this prayer prayed over you probably right now if you're struggling with your soul. Here's the prayer. It comes from 3 John. 3 John is just one chapter, so it's verse 2. It says, "Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you." Now, that sounds like a great prayer, doesn't it? This is the prayer I want someone to pray over me, that I have good health and that all goes well with me. That's a great prayer, but it doesn't stop there. Even as your soul is getting along well. Even as. That's the big idea of this prayer. I pray, well, let me put it in this terms. Would you like it if I prayed that your finances, your job, your health, your relationships, those things in your life, I pray that they are doing as well as your soul is doing? Is that the prayer that you want prayed over you? Because if you're honest with yourself, looking at yourself, maybe your soul isn't doing as well as you want it to be. And you would like for your finances, your job, your family, your relationships to surpass what your soul is feeling in the moment. As we start this new series, I hope that we can be honest about our soul. In fact, I'm going to ask you a few questions to be able to check in with your soul. First question is this, it's the title of the whole series, Is It Well With My Soul? I want you to ask yourself that right now. Is it well with my soul. God created us to have a body and a soul, and they are not devoid of one another. They are put together on purpose and in reason. But a lot of times, whenever we talk about our health, whenever we check in on our health, we check in on our physical health. I want you to check in on your spiritual health. How's your soul doing? The soul cannot thrive outside of the presence of God. It was made in the very image of God to be a reflection of God. If your soul can't see God, it can't reflect God. And if it can't reflect God, it can't do what it's supposed to do in your life. So how's your soul? David said, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet with him? Our souls long to be with God, which is why the enemy is so adamant to keep your soul restless. To illustrate this, let me state the obvious. We live in a culture, we live in a world that has normalized a way of life that is absolutely toxic to our souls. You realize this, right? We have normalized a way of life that is toxic. The skyrocketing rates of anxiety and depression, the rising abuse of alcohol and opioids or any other kind of drug, the consistent and constant airing of outrage, offenses, and grievances. And of course, the common feeling of being exhausted. Those are all normal now, right? We just kind of accept them as this is normal. This is life here. This is normal, but it's not. We keep telling ourselves, man, this is just a season. This too shall pass. It's just a season. The problem is seasons change. How long have you been in this season? How long has your soul been restless? We keep living in ways that are wearing us out, but Jesus understands, and he offers us this invitation. This invitation is this: come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest in your souls. Jesus isn't simply offering a temporary relief. He's not offering a Band-Aid fix for a weariness of our soul. He's not offering us just a quick nap in order for us to feel better. He is offering us a change of life that is back to the way that he intended it to be. He's offering restoration. Jesus is offering a better way that actually renews our soul. When we live like Jesus, we are renewed daily. So is it well with your soul? That's the question that we're going to be exploring. I've got plenty more questions that I will save for another time. I wanted to set up this series for you so that you could ask yourself and consider, what does my soul look like? Where is my soul? How can I have the kind of peace that passes understanding like Horatio Spafford did whenever he came across that place in the ocean to say, it is well. You see, you can't live the life that God desires, have the peace that God desires, without trusting that it is well with my soul, because God is in charge. And so as we embark upon this series, my hope is that you will be able to sing along with the words of that great song. That you will be able to not just sing because it's the song that we're singing next. You'll be able to sing because it truly is well with your soul. And when it is well with your soul, the whole world will notice. Because a good soul, a well soul, springs forward from the well that is within it. A life everlasting, a life that is joyful, a life that has so many blessings for others around it. They can't help but want to be around you. So this morning you may need some encouragement. You may need some help. You may need some prayers for your soul because it's not where it needs to be. So I want to offer this invitation for you to join in singing with Horatio Spafford's words, "It is well." If you would stand and sing together.